Hey guys, welcome back. The third episode of the Halo TV series released this morning, titled Emergence. And this episode was weird. Not bad, just weird. It felt like more of a character-driven story rather than anything that progressed to the actual story itself. And while that's not bad, it definitely left a lot to be desired, at least to me. I enjoyed a lot of aspects from this episode. Parandowski using Miranda Keyes to get back at Halsey for what she did in the last episode, and the creation of Cortana. Though there was stuff I was a little iffy about. But we'll cover that soon. For now though, let's break down all the new Covenant stuff that we found in episode 3, Emergence. Right off the bat, we get an origin story from Maquis, who is on the human colony of Oban, which is a salvage colony in the Silver timeline. Now in the core canon, the UNSC discovered Oban after the Covenant War, and it was home for millions of refugees. But from what I can tell from this show, Oban seems to be, at best, a penal colony, seeing as Oban's security force seems to be acting more like prison guards. This whole environment here gives me serious Rua Penthe vibes from Star Trek. I find it interesting that within the TV show, they make the UNSC and the UEG darker compared to what we got in the core canon. Sure, it sometimes shows them as reckless and sometimes uncaring, but we never got something this dark before. But moving on, we have Maquis and her childhood friend slash sweetheart, Dret, reading Dawn of Angels. She also read the same book as we got her introduction in episode 1. As Maquis and Det share a kiss, the Oban guards chase Maquis and Det, with them being the latter to death. Literally. This show is not pulling any punches when it comes to killing kids. First in episode 1, now here. As the Oban guards brand Maquis with that mark that we saw in the end of episode 2, the Covenant arrives on Oban, with a pair of Sangheili looking for what their luminary is guiding them to. Now before we go on, let's look at this luminary. Unlike the core canon, which the luminary is depicted as a pyramid-like structure, the luminary in the Silver timeline is just a staff. Granted, it has the same pyramid-like structure on the tip, but it's a little off to me, at least. I have nothing against this change, mind you. I'm glad the luminary is in the show. I just wish it was incorporated in a different manner. But moving on, as the Oban guard is burning Maquis with his energy staff, the Sangheili save Maquis, pushing the guard to the ground. While the one Sangheili is insisting that the artifact they're looking for is behind Maquis, the Sangheili with the luminary notices the object glowing right at Maquis. He then deduces that Maquis is what the luminary is searching for. And there we get a heroic pose of the Covenant Corvette overhead, and seeing Maquis in awe and appreciation of the Sangheili saving them from their torturers, I can definitely understand why Maquis would side with the Covenant during the War of Annihilation, aka the Covenant War. From what I can gather from this first scene, she seems to be an orphan, and the last vestige of her humanity was killed, literally, and it was brandished on her back. I don't know if I were you, but if I were her, I would definitely side with the Covenant. But as the scene ends, and we get a time jump back to High Charity as Maquis is dressing up for a mission to recover the Keystone, Mercy and the other hierarchs are questioning where she'll go next. Her first destination is going to be on Madrigal, where she first sensed the spirit of the artifact, as she put it. When Mercy inquires about what if she encounters the Master Chief, she vows that for the kindness Mercy showed her over the years, she will not only recover the Keystone, but bring him the demon's head. Now I gotta be honest, this was a really good opening for me at least. Like I said, I totally get Maquis' motivations in siding with the Covenant. All I want to know now is why the Prophets are taking such an investment in this one human. In the middle of the episode, we have the UNSC ship Gladius witnessing a Covenant Corvette emerging out of slip space with its shields down, weapons down, and its engines offline. As the Gladius moves into firing position, They get a message from Maquis, who feigns that she's a lone human survivor of a Covenant attack. Gladius's captain sends over a bumblebee to extract Maquis. All the while, a mecha Legolo dismantles into small Legolo colonies. And yeah, we get our first hunter. Well, we get its foot at least. And if you can listen carefully, it has the same roaring patterns as we saw from Halo Infinite. That, in my opinion, is the best variation of the hunter sound, and I am glad that it made its way into the show. As Maquis' bumblebee enters the Gladius, the captain and his retinue of UNSC Marines greet Maquis as well as you might expect. They point their weapons at her, force her to lay low on the ground, and search her for any signs of weapons. When they find she's clean, the captain greets her, and just as she's greeting them, a swarm of Legolo emerge and devours the UNSC Marines. And here we finally get that scene from the trailer. And while I admit it was a little short than I would have liked, it was still badass. Maquis just walking through as the Legolo swarm, strangle, and just absolutely devouring these UNSC Marines is just, I just love it. I honestly just love absolutely all of that scene. And honestly, I find these Legolo even more terrifying than what we got from Nightfall. And those were a special kind of Legolo. As Maquis is entering the bridge of the Gladius and corners the captain, the Legolo overpower the captain and strap him down while Maquis questions where the keystone is. And as all this takes place, the Cole Protocol takes into effect and wipes the ship clean. This is a nice subtle nod to the Cole Protocol that we have grown accustomed to as lore fans. But for those of you who don't know, the Cole Protocol is basically a contingency to prevent the Covenant from locating other human worlds, such as Earth or Reach. As the Gladius's captain refuses to answer any questions, Maquis kills the captain with an energy nail? What? Okay, this is just straight out of fanfic right now. I mean, I'm all for fanfic stuff, but this is kind of ridiculous. Yeah? But anyway, let's move on. As Maquis tries to access the Gladius's database, it locks her out, and she's in a bit of a predicament. But within the final moments of the episode, she seems to be hooking up a strange device within the Gladius's communications array. And as she's contacting her SDV class heavy corvette, the UNSC intercepts the transmission, and her voice comes off as male. This to me sounds like Maquis wants the UNSC to intercept her transmission. I have a feeling that in turn, the Corvette is going to locate where the keystone is on Reach. We might be getting a fall Reach for the Silver timeline at the end of the season. I really hope so, cause I mean, I want to see the utter devastation of the Covenant. We got that in Halo Reach, but I mean, with the TMA rating for this show, I mean, whew. And one final note, I didn't mention this in the first two episodes, but the Sangheili language here is just beyond perfect. And it's written by the very guy who made the Dothraki language in Game of Thrones. The Dothraki language was absolutely sick, and seeing my favorite Sangheili warrior language being fleshed out in the TV show is just utterly fantastic. But that's episode 3, Emergence. I'm not going to cover all the UNSC stuff and the insurrectionist stuff, but it was okay. I'm digging the Soren and Quan arc, which is definitely in parallel to Han Solo and Leia Organa from Star Wars A New Hope, which, I mean, is just cool. And the creation of Cortana was definitely interesting. It's definitely different from how it was handled in the core canon, but it was pretty cool to me. And obviously, I love Jennifer Taylor as Cortana. She always nails it as the AI. My only biggest beef with this episode is, sadly, the Master Chief. In the first episode, we had a perfect Master Chief for me. He was calm, collective, and he was a natural leader. But in episode 3, Chief is just really off here. He removes his emotional palette, and he pretty much becomes a normal human being for like an hour, and then goes back to analyze the artifact, and now is on his way to Aridness 2. Like, honestly, I just hope the story moves forward after the end of episode 4, But right now, the Master Chief story in the show right now is just all over the place right now. And with that consideration, I give episode 3 a 7 out of 10. Like episode 2, I was a little iffy at first when I first watched it, but it grew on me as I continued watching it throughout the day. Honestly, the most intriguing elements of the show right now for me is, surprise surprise, Maquis and the Covenant. Quan and Soren's arc is a second, but unfortunately, Master Chief's is my least favorite. But what do you guys think? What was your favorite scene from this episode? And what are you hoping to see more from this season? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, may the eyes of the prophets watch down upon you all. Victory to clan and kin, Covenant fans. Covenant Canon, out.